2023 wellness influencers really are the gifts that just keep on giving. Hey everyone, I'm Abbey Sharp. Welcome to Abby's Kitchen. Today we're going to be taking a look at the highlight reel of the most unhinged, problematic wellness influencer advice. And let me tell you, this year did not disappoint. And by not, I mean it has been a dumpster fire of disappointment. Before we dive in, I want to give a shout out to today's sponsor, MyHeritage. So my mom and I have always been really interested in our family's history. So before my grandfather died, he recorded a bunch of tapes documenting his whole life, and they are so fascinating to say the least. So I've always been eager to learn more about who and where I came from, and MyHeritage makes it so easy to build your family tree. This is the leading global service for family history research and DNA testing. They have 90 million users and 19 billion easily searchable historical records, plus advanced AI technology for repairing and enhancing historical photos. It's honestly crazy. I've been slowly working on this tree bit by bit, and my plan is to share my findings with my parents for the holidays, along with their own accounts so they can learn more about their own ancestors. But it's really an amazing service. So you basically plug in as many family members as you can, and then you can research each one for old records related to marriage licenses, death certificates, newspaper clippings, maps, schools, and more. One thing I learned is that basically every man on my mother's side is named Alan, which I guess is a tradition that my sister and I kind of put to bed. But even if you don't have a ton of information, they make it super easy to build your tree with their instant discoveries function. And they can take old photos and basically bring them to life. It's super crazy. But if you want to start to build your family tree and research your family history, you can check out my link in the description to get a free 14-day trial of the MyHeritage Complete Plan to get started today. Well, let's start with this misinformed video from Autumn Bates claiming that the protein in peanut butter doesn't count.
2 tablespoons of peanut butter has 7 grams of protein. 1 egg has 6 grams of protein. But the protein you get from peanut butter doesn't really count. It has a digestibility score of 0.46. Eggs have a score of 1.13. This measures how much protein you're actually absorbing. So when you eat 1 egg, you get that full 6 grams of protein. But when you eat 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, you're really only maybe getting 3 grams.
Alrighty. Now, nutritionist Autumn and I may not share the same approach to nutrition, but I think most of her content is generally scientifically sound. But I feel like she really misunderstood the assignment here. So Autumn's talking about the DIAS score, which is the best method that we have to assess protein quality. A score of 46 means that if you were to eat the average requirement of protein from only peanut butter, only about 46% would be usable by the body. This is based on the fact that plant-based foods are missing or low in 1 or more amino acids, all of which you need to synthesize protein tissue. So peanut butter is limited by methionine. So if you were to only consume peanut butter, then of the 7 grams per serving, only around 3 grams would be utilized for tissue synthesis. But who the is only eating peanut butter for their daily protein?
Oh, Ethan.
If we were to simply pair the peanut butter with like a slice of bread, which has plenty of methionine, you've got all the essential amino acids to utilize the protein in that peanut butter. Bread's limiting amino acid is lysine, but peanut butter has plenty of that. So it's like having 2 pieces of paper with a few holes in each. When you layer in a variety of plant-based foods, you fill in all the holes and you get more available protein. And by the way, you don't need to consume these complementary proteins at the exact same time either. That protein combining theory has long been debunked. So this is actually a complete non-issue for folks eating a normal, non-restrictive diet. So if you like peanut butter, enjoy it as one of many sources of protein in your day. Just because it's not the best source doesn't mean that it doesn't count. Next, let's take a look at this advice from Frugivore Paige Shea.
This is the #1 rule of food combining. Don't eat protein and fat with fruit. It's best to eat fruit by itself or alongside vegetables and leafy greens. Fruit digests very easily and quickly. So if you eat fruit along with a high protein, high fat meal, all of the fat and protein is going to get in fruit's way and it's going to cause gas and discomfort.
Oh gosh. Honestly, of all the fringe diets out there, I have to say that the whole high carb, frugivore, food combining diet is probably the one that makes the least amount of scientific sense.
You just don't get it, do you?
So this suggestion that combining fruit with anything that has protein or fat will create some kind of like traffic jam in your gut is so far from what the science tells us. For one, our body's pretty sophisticated. It's not like a one-lane highway. We can digest different foods at different rates because our body releases the right cocktail of digestive enzymes based on what we put into our gut. Second, digesting food really fast isn't really a good thing. Like, we don't want fruit to just go right through us as it would if you were to eat an entire watermelon or banana smoothie in one go, because if it does, our blood sugar would spike, crash, and we will be hungry really soon after, despite eating an entire watermelon. Protein, fiber, and fat, aka my hunger crushing compounds, will help to slow down the blood sugar response, which is one of the only food combination strategies we want to follow. I mean, this is the same creator who insists on keeping fat intake under 10% of calories, and that she got toned when she eliminated all major protein sources. So yeah, I think it's safe to take a hard pass on this advice. All right, moving on to some of the worst wellness influencer offenders online. Bobby Parrish of Flav City.
I know, there's a nationwide shortage of formula still, but have you seen the ingredients in most? They're not the best. The good news is there are some better ones. But take, for example, something like this. The first ingredient is non-fat milk. That milk is not organic. That milk is not non-GMO, meaning the milk is GMO. It comes from cows that eat GMO grain. I would never eat GMOs. I wouldn't want infants doing that either. Strike number one. How about something like this? See the sweetener in here? It's corn syrup solids. Why would they put corn syrup in an infant formula? Because they're trying to mimic the sweetness of breast milk, mother's milk. Well, that sweetness is lactose. This is the opposite of that. GMO corn syrup, which is addictive and lights up your brain in the way of a drug. To give this to an infant, pretty bad. But Bobby, I buy organic formula. Well, that's good, because like it says, it's organic, so it's non-GMO milk. But look at the oils used in here. Organic palm oil, soybean oil, sunflower, safflower oil. They're trying to mimic the fat content of mother's milk, but these, even though they're organic, are highly processed, highly inflammatory, highly refined, and those kind of oils are also bad for the gut. A baby has the most gut microbiome they're ever gonna have at that age. To start destroying it with those ingredients is bad news. But what's the good news? There are way better ones that are not perfect, but way better. Try getting something called Serenity Kids, made with 100% grass-fed milk. How about organic La Luca or organic Hip from Europe? Those are way better than these options. Just keep in mind what you're putting in your infant at this age is very important.
This is quite possibly one of the most problematic, insensitive, and tone-deaf Bobby videos he has ever put up.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
And based on his content repertoire, that's saying a lot. So, first of all, is Bobby a pediatrician? A pediatric dietitian, even a person who has attempted to feed another human after pushing them out of his body? Because as far as I'm concerned, anyone can stand in a grocery store and yell about ingredients to a camera. But it gives them zero authority to speak on a critical topic like infant nutrition. At the time this video was posted, we were in the midst of a serious infant formula shortage. So honestly, read the room, Bobby. Let's go through some of his ill-informed grievances, shall we? First of all, GMOs. Not a concern for me. GMOs have undergone more detailed evaluation than any other group of food products that we consume, and the data overwhelmingly indicates that the consumption of GMOs pose zero risk to human health. As for corn syrup solids, Bobby, next time just do a basic Google search before you get on the horn. But basically, Bobby makes a stink about the corn syrup solids being high fructose corn syrup, and that high fructose corn syrup is addictive or toxic or whatever. Lots to say here. Keeping it succinct. First of all, the claims that high fructose corn syrup is addictive is based on rat data, not humans, but this is a moot point. More importantly, corn syrup solids aren't high fructose corn syrup at all. High fructose corn syrup has 55% fructose to glucose ratio, whereas corn syrup solids are straight up glucose. Bobby also says something to the effect that lactose is the opposite of glucose, which again points to how little about nutrition he actually knows. Lactose is a disaccharide made up of glucose and galactose, but because it was meant for preemies who often lack sufficient lactase enzyme levels, they mix it with glucose to make it easier for them to digest. Not all formulas have corn syrup solids, but this has a very specific clinical purpose to help babies thrive. Bobby then rounds out his video with his usual vegetable oil rant. And we have cleared this up ad nauseum over here at Abby's Kitchen. But to summarize, while some studies have pointed to the potential inflammatory properties of getting too much omega-6 in the diet, the larger body of high-quality evidence suggests that omega-6 fats do not have a significant effect on inflammation. In fact, a 2012 systematic review assessed the effects of omega-6 linoleic acids on inflammatory markers and found no strong link to suggest that it increased inflammation. As for the Bobby-approved formula recommendations, this one is a toddler formula, which is used when most infants can actually literally come off formula, so unhelpful suggestion. And both the Leluca and the HIP contain vegetable oil as the third ingredient, which was one of the main things he just ripped into. So these may have other unique features that make them the right choice for some families, but they're significantly more expensive and way less accessible than drugstore brands. The last thing that parents need is to be mansplained misinformation when they are literally just trying to do the best damn job that they can. I am trying really hard to keep it kind here because watching Bobby's content makes me ragey AF.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
But let's move on to this gut health tip from Liz Seibert.
They say that the gut is like the second brain. Once I learned how to eat in a way that was gut healing, my mental health completely transformed. Today I'm going to show you how to make one of my favorite easy gut healing breakfasts. And it's going to keep you full for hours. Starting with a lot of high quality butter that I get from a farm. We're going to add carrots, onions, broccoli, a clove of garlic. Then we're just going to stir fry this in the butter. The reason that we're using these vegetables is because they're very low carb and they're not starchy. Starch is one of the things that can really irritate the gut.
Okay, I'm gonna stop the video right here because basically the rest is just some scrambled eggs with lots of butter, avocado, and veg, and it does look delicious. But I flagged this video because of the clear and misguided message that carbs and starch irritate the gut. Now, IBS symptoms are very tricky. Obviously, everyone's experience of what triggers a flare will be unique. But generally speaking, we know that starchy foods are actually hugely beneficial to the gut. If we look at a type of starch in foods like unripe bananas, potatoes, oats, rice, plantains, and legumes called resistant starch, we see that these actually act as unique prebiotic fibers to improve gut health, microbiome diversity, short-chain fatty acid production, and immune response. The reason why people like Liz, who have taken on a super strict carnivore-style diet, may see a reduction in GI symptoms is that they end up cutting out a ton of potentially triggering foods. But elimination diets like the controversial GAPS diet that she references in this video, or other bogus gut healing diets that we hear about online, are not meant to be followed long term. You're supposed to eliminate, then reintroduce most of these foods that you cut out in a stepwise manner so as not to cause long-term harm to microbiome. And unfortunately, this is a cycle that we see in a lot of folks with histories of disordered eating and eating disorders, which Liz has been very open about struggling with in the past. So I talked about this in more detail in my video right here, but often eating disorders can cause functional gut disorders, food sensitivities, and motility issues, which then can lead people towards hyper-restrictive diets to try to get some digestive relief, which in the end can actually do more long-term damage. In fact, in the case of the carnivore diet, one review of the literature found that people whose diet was low in fiber and high in animal protein had microbiome dysbiosis and a specific bacterial ratio in the gut that is associated with IBD. So while the carnivore diet with low amounts of beneficial starch or fiber may temporarily suppress some GI symptoms, it ultimately is not good for the gut. And speaking of carnivores, we have got to talk about this gem of misinformation from the carnivore MD, Paul Saladino.
I have elevated cholesterol, but I don't need a statin. Here's why. In many people, like myself, who eat a significant amount of saturated fat from animal meat and avoid seed oils, LDL cholesterol rises. If I went to a classically trained doctor, they would beg me to take a statin. But my elevated cholesterol does not mean that I am at an increased risk of cardiovascular disease.
So much dangerous misinformation in one short clip. So for one, anytime I see an influencer pill shame or discourage the public from taking a life-saving medication or seeking the advice of classically trained doctors, my eyes get a little twitchy.
Look at my eye twitching.
I also find it super convenient that Paul never shares references or receipts for the studies he references. So I guess I'm gonna be picking up the slack. We have ample research that high LDL cholesterol can increase the risk of heart disease because that cholesterol can bury itself in the arterial walls, cause inflammation, and increase your risk of a heart attack or stroke. Now, I assume his argument is based on the heavily criticized review that concluded that 92% of seniors with high cholesterol ended up living longer, suggesting that the benefits of a statin treatment had been exaggerated. But not only was the study criticized for bias and poor methods, but 2/3 of its participant pool came from just one study, and even that study found that statin use provided a survival benefit. Also, being metabolically healthy, aka maintaining low insulin levels, doesn't erase the damage that LDL can do to one's arteries. Nor does it mean that he wouldn't benefit from a statin. One 20-year study of men with no heart disease risk factors other than high LDL cholesterol and no evidence of heart disease found that just 40 milligrams of a weak statin reduced coronary deaths by 28%. Honestly, I don't really give a what Paul does, but I do care what kind of BS he is spewing to the masses.
Bullshit!
And finally, let's finish off with Coach Jeremy, who apparently had his Halloween doctor costume do double duty this year with this notoriously misinformed video.
Yo, are you serious right now? Do you realize that doctors are literally poisoning young children in this country? When you turn back and you see the label, not only does it have sucralose, which is an artificial sweetener that disturbs the brain, but we have red 40, which has been proven to cause hyperactivity in the brain. And then guess what? That same doctor wants to prescribe your young child with a methamphetamine like Adderall.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. That escalated from like red 40 is dangerous to full-blown conspiracy theory that doctors are giving their patients ADHD to make money off of prescriptions? Honestly, this makes me sick. I don't know if this guy has ever met a child who has been sick, but if your kid has a very high fever and is like puking, having diarrhea, and not wanting to eat or drink anything, you are heading to the ER. You don't give a about a little sucralose or red 40. You want your child to get better and rehydrate because dehydration is a major cause of morbidity and mortality in infants and young children worldwide, largely from acute viruses that cause diarrhea. But to just set the record straight on a few things, sucralose, aka Splenda, is considered safe in moderate amounts, with human research showing no negative impact on gut health. And while I wouldn't personally recommend children consume artificial sweeteners like sucralose daily, a little bit of sweetener to encourage kids to drink an electrolyte supplement that could very well save a life is absolutely not a concern. As for food dye, red 40 was actually phased in as like a safer alternative to red 3 because red 3 was linked to thyroid cancer in rats. As for hyperactivity, a 2004 analysis of 15 studies did find that artificial food dyes like red 40 did slightly increase hyperactivity in children, while other research suggests that this effect is genetically determined and not all children react the same. Another meta-analysis found an association, though not necessarily causal, between food dyes and autism. So even though this is all quite inconclusive and correlation is not causation, I do think that there's reason to be cautious with overconsumption. That said, if your kid is exhausted from dehydration, the benefits of a rehydration solution far outweigh any potential small boost in hyperactivity. And if your child is sensitive, there are unsweetened and dye-free options. As a mom, I'll be honest, I do try to avoid food dyes under normal everyday circumstances, but I can't really imagine my kids wanting to drink salty, clear liquid when they don't want to eat or drink anything at all. So I will take a life-saving sweetened dyed substance on occasion over my kid needing to go to the ER to be put on a drip. But you know what? We are lucky to have options here. And when Jeremy has kids and his kids are violently ill, he can do that risk-benefit analysis for himself. Well, folks, there's no shortage of crazy, unhinged wellness advice making its rounds. And you know I will always be here taking it down as it comes our way. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more diet culture BS takedown content. Like this video, check out my description for my free hunger crushing combo ebook, and I'll see you next time on Abby's Kitchen. Cheers!